find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
I was driving the other day and it was very dark and spooky. It was storming. The rain was very heavy, and I was going around this turn right as you come off the West Seattle Bridge. And as I flitted my eyes to the, kind of apex of the turn, I thought I saw a man standing there.
Oh, God.
And for like the briefest moment, I could have sworn to God that there was a man standing there. There was no such real man, so I have concluded that I saw what I like to call a road ghost.
I think you saw a rogue road ghost.
Yeah. And it was really funny because I was telling Joe about it, and then we were getting off the bridge a couple days later, and he goes, "Is this where you saw the guy?"
Where is he? Let me try and sniff him out.
I know, right? I was like, oh my God, you remembered the very weird and random thing I told you.
That's true, love.
It was, but then he asked me if it was the statues of the dancing kids that are in front of the West Seattle sign, that someone has placed a pumpkin, someone has taken a jack-o'-lantern and stuck it on top of the heads of one of the kids.
Well, that's art. I mean, for those who don't know, it's 4 or 5 dancing, mannequin type things on your way into West Seattle.
Yeah, it's really to let you know that West Seattle is a fun place and not a super haunted place full of road ghosts.
Yeah, they kind of Sleepy Hollowed it a little bit.
They did. Honestly, scary enough as it is, this child with a pumpkin's head dancing at you from the bushes.
Well, the mannequins themselves are just out of nowhere, truly in the bushes. So it's already a bad situation.
Oh my God, do you think the ghost was one of the souls of the dancing mannequin children?
It's either that or it's the ghost of a shipyard down there. Somebody got injured in one of those shipyards, or whatever the fuck's down there, commercial business stuff.
So a longshoreman ghost?
Something like that.
I love that.
A fisherman, a logger.
An IT bro who met an unfortunate fate.
Sure. We're on different tracks, but that never bothers me.
In olden days, a glimpse of FEMA was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Hello and welcome to Anything Bones. I'm Sophie, 189 Bodies Schwartz.
And I'm Katelyn, Mom on the Run Hart. And you're listening to the podcast where Sophie and I sit down and warmly and kindly discuss bones, bone-related topics, and ghosts on the side of the road.
Yeah, I just thought that would be a fun and spooky way to start off the podcast, because it actually kind of rattled me.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't like to see something like that.
Yeah, because if I'd been in the lane over and seen it, I would have swerved.
Yeah. That reminds me, I'm having a flash memory. When I was a kid at a sleepover once, sleeping in a friend's basement, as a little kid, I have this memory of waking up and thinking that I saw the rug, moving in front of me. And I have a vivid, memory of watching a rug, move on its own. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And it's something like that just sticks with you. And you're like, is that real or did I make that up? But your brain kind of processes it the same.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. Those dreams you have as a little kid that almost feel like memories or somewhere kind of in between.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, well.
Time's weird, man.
I was going to say Halloween is technically over, but it's really never over for us.
It's never over in our hearts and minds and never over on this podcast.
Yes, although we do plunge into a time of year that I like to call deep fall.
Yeah. Yeah, it is dark.
Yeah, that's one of the key components of Deep Fall is that it is the descent into the long darkness that is the wintertime here in the Pacific Northwest. And, you know, we got sunsets at 5 o'clock. You know, we got the ever-present cloud cover, the cutting wind that will always find that one little part of your jacket that's not quite buttoned or zipped, and it will stab you.
How do you like that? Do you want gloves now, bitch?
Yeah, should have worn a fucking hat now, little cold-eared bitch. And I'm like, yeah, wind, you're right. What do you want, a fucking trophy? You want me to cry?
I'm not usually one who is like cold all the time. I'm usually the one that's like, hey, it's too warm in here. But lately it's the opposite.
I'm cold all the damn time.
I know you are.
I'm like, cocoon me in the blankets.
I've got a sweater on and a fuzzy blanket. And I worked from home today and I've had this fuzzy blanket on all day.
Aww.
But I have been sick, so I guess I can give myself a break there.
Yeah.
I just want to be cozy and healthy.
You deserve that, especially in such a dark time of year.
Oh my God, yeah. Should we move past the darkness and talk about more darkness?
I was going to say, moving past the darkness isn't quite possible on this podcast, but we can try to inspect the darkness without letting it come into our hearts.
Sure.
But speaking of dark-hearted people, I have a bit of bony true crime for you today.
Oh boy.
I know.
Can't wait to sink my teeth into it.
I'm usually not the one who brings the crime, but today is crime time. What we're going to be covering is a type of crime that I find especially fascinating and abhorrent. And I've covered it in a couple different instances on this podcast. We're going to be talking about another funeral home scandal.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
It just like, you should be able to bury your loved one in like a safe and honorable way, and the way that you pay to have it done as well.
Yes.
So when it's fraud with dead bodies, it's just like you take one tragedy and you just compound it with another, and it's these are hard.
Yeah.
But fascinating, because it's like, how did we get here, guys?
Exactly. And these are victims of crime that happened so outside of their consent. They're dead. It's so outside of their control. It's scary to me that even after you're dead, you're not safe from being victimized by someone who wants to be both negligent and malicious.
And I would say like, oh, I just want to get cremated. But we've seen scandals where people think they're getting ashes and they're getting nothing. So you never know. Fuck.
Yeah, you really never know. Let's hop into some sources really quickly before we get into the details of this case. So I have 2 articles from NPR, one from CBS News, one from 9 News, and one from CPR.org, as well as the FBI website.
Cool. Casual.
Very casual. I forgot to write it down. I had to remember it.
Oh my God. Well, it's hard to forget.
Not for me. I'm looking at so many important websites.
I have many documents to attend to. FBI.
Yes, FBI. You don't demand my entire attention. No, you do, FBI. If you need my attention, you have it. To start us off, Carrie and John Halford are the owners of Return to Nature Funeral Home in Colorado. They were arrested on Wednesday, the 8th of November, 2023.
This month, like days ago.
Like last week.
Jesus.
They were arrested for this last week because around 200 corpses were found improperly dealt with in their funeral home.
Jesus Christ. So this is some like breaking bone news right now.
Yes, we are on the breaking bone wire right now because this is actually a case I've been following for the last couple of weeks because
Because what the fuck?
Yeah, because as we'll talk about a little bit, it pops off in early October of this year. And,
Crazy.
And it's unfolding before our eyes. You know, maybe I'll have some more updates for you guys, but I have quite a lot for you already. But this case is a hard one for us here on the Anything Bones podcast because Return to Nature Funeral Home, if that sounds familiar to you at all, it's because it is a green burial funeral home.
Okay.
And for our listeners who are not familiar with green burial, it is the concept of being returned to the earth without embalming, buried without embalming practices or fluids. This is
and without a coffin, right?
Sometimes
Or
like
with
a
a coffin.
wicker basket type coffin, something decompostable, because the idea is that it's a very environmentally friendly way to be buried because you're not introducing any more harmful chemicals into the ground, as well as a coffin that won't decompose. That's just, more wood and metal hanging out under the ground for no reason. Well, the reason of a dignified death. But, on this podcast, we're pretty big fans of green burial, unfortunately. I mean, fortunately, because, if it's done right.
If it's done right, yeah, this sounds like a bad scam.
Yes, and I want to reiterate, this is not green burial done right. This is green burial done so wrong. So wrong. And I think it's important as, I would like to think that we are advocating for green burial on this podcast. We want the earth to be less polluted, but we still want people to be respected.
Sure.
So it kind of hurts that someone in the green burial field would do this.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
It's a bummer because that's a shot against us for the cause because it is not legal in all states. It is legal in Colorado where he was doing this, of course. And they've been open since 2017. Doing green burial and cremations. So one of the stipulations of the legality of green burial in Colorado is that the remains must be refrigerated or buried within 24 hours. Return to Nature Funeral Home was not doing this.
Yeah, so within 24 hours of receiving the body or within 24 hours of death?
I would say within receiving the body because they probably can't control the time of death. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
Around early October times, locals to the area start noticing a really horrible smell.
Oh, God.
This is usually the beginning of a funeral home scandal, is that people are like, I smell death.
Yeah.
And I'm not supposed to.
This shouldn't be happening. Did they see anything or was it just the smell?
It's just the smell from the reports that I read. But this smell was enough that people called the police about it.
Damn.
They were
had to
like,
have been bad.
Yeah. And it had to have smelled wrong. That's a smell that ticks in your brain, a deep part of yourself that goes, uh-oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
So on October 3rd of 2023, the Sheriff's Office of Penrose, Colorado, got a call about this smell. And then on the following day, October 4th, the regulatory investigator for funeral home regulations called John Halford, one of the owners of this funeral home, about going to have a visit at Return to Nature Funeral Home, and also about the smell.
Yeah. Hey, guy, what's going on? Why is it so funky out here?
It's it is so funky. What's going on, sir? And John tells him that he has been using the funeral home for practicing his own personal hobby of taxidermy with animals, and that he knew that it would create a smell that would be a problem.
So you're saying you're just creating a different problem with you're not answering the question in my mind. It's just I'm sorry, what? Like, you taxidermy animals at your funeral home?
Buddy, no.
And you knew it was going to smell really bad, so you're like, yeah, come on in, fellas. I know it smells bad. I'm not doing it to bodies, just to dead animals.
I know it is not a great. It's not a great story for him to be telling. And so the inspector is like, yeah, so I'd like to come for a visit today if possible. And John is like, yes, that's totally possible. We'll meet. And John never showed up.
Uh-oh.
He ghosted the inspector.
That's not something that you want to have happen as an inspector.
Nope, because this immediately triggered the police to be able to search the funeral home.
Hey, bet you didn't see that one coming, John.
No, he didn't. But the person who would truly be surprised would be Sheriff Alan Cooper, who was not ready for what he would find inside a Return to Nature funeral home, which would be bodies stacked on top of each other, not refrigerated, just decomposing in the derelict funeral home.
So, like, not even in, like, a morgue, just kind of
Nope.
everywhere.
Just like around. We don't have too many details because, again, this is an ongoing case. So we're going to have to wait to the trial for some of this.
Sure. Did you say 189 bodies at the beginning?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
We'll get to that.
Oh, my God.
So they immediately realize that they are going to need reinforcements.
Yeah. Call everyone.
So they call actually like a biohazard unit to work a series of a few 12-hour days to document the scene and transfer the bodies into refrigerated trailers. And they had to wear hazmat suits and not be in the building for longer than 40 minutes at a time. And they were completely decontaminated once they came out.
Oh my God. You can only be in there in a hazmat suit for 40 minutes at a time.
Yes, because when they initially began removing bodies, one of the people who had been exposed to the bodies got a weird rash.
Fuck.
Yeah. And so when investigators initially looked at this 2,500 square foot building, they thought there could only be as many as 115 to 120 bodies in the building. But after all of the remains were sent to the El Paso coroner's office, they realized that the number of individuals was actually 189.
Jesus Christ.
Which is... It's with a number that high, your brain kind of shuts off for a second. Like when you think of 60 bodies, that's a lot. When you think of 100 bodies, that's a lot. When you think of almost 200 bodies, it's almost too much to like imagine.
It's kind of crazy. I wonder how long it took to get that bad, you know? Like,
well,
God, I'm sure you're going to tell me.
Well, some of the remains date back to 2019.
Fuck. That is so vile.
That is some remains rotting for 4 years. Unrefrigerated.
Were they just like skeletons at that point, probably?
I mean, probably close to, if not in about the worst state you can be in.
Jesus Christ.
Corpses stacked on top of each other.
That's some serial killer shit. This is not okay.
It's intentional. It's hideous.
Well, and like, how many fucking people work there? Like, I can't imagine how anybody is okay with this.
I mean, the funeral home is owned by 2 people, so 2 people had to look at each other in the face and tell each other that they were not going to cremate or bury these bodies.
Yeah.
That's a conversation that had to happen.
How do they sleep at night? It's just like so crazy because you're taking money from these people's families, I assume.
Oh, yeah. And we'll talk a little bit about that later because they're in it for fraud, too. Don't worry.
I wasn't.
So obviously, as we discussed, the remains were in very poor condition, to say it as lightly as possible. And this meant that they're using at the moment DNA, dental records, their fingerprints. They're asking for families to come back in to try to find loved ones who they thought were put to rest years ago.
Yeah, some people it's open since 2017. Like, fuck.
And if I have your grandpa's corpse here, what do you have?
Yeah.
If your grandpa was supposed to be cremated and I, the coroner, have your grandpa, what do you have?
Oh, yeah, that's a bad one.
You brought up that we
have
talked about this before because they believe that many of the families, the victims' families, were given an ash substitute of some kind.
Fuck, that is just so messed up. It's just such an invasion of like trust, and yeah, it's just not right.
It's an invasion of trust. It's a violation of their family. And to make matters worse, these people got certificates saying that their loved ones were cremated by one of two different companies that they worked for. And investigators spoke with these companies, and they did not work with this funeral home at the times dated on the certificates.
Oh, good. So it's just fraud all around.
So they're just lying on paper to these people.
Great.
With a fancy little certificate that says, really what it says is we did nothing. We used a printer.
Took your money.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said before, we've talked about a similar case to this in a way. Do you remember Colorado funeral home owner Megan Hess?
Vaguely, yes.
She was the one that was selling body parts on Facebook.
Yeah, sure. Magon.
And she was the one that was giving concrete dust to people instead of ashes. And she was actually sentenced at the beginning of this year to 20 years in prison.
Well, I hope we're looking at some similar charges for these fuckers.
I'm hoping so too. It's going to be way more than that because they're in it bad. And I am so hoping that the justice system just crushes these people. Mm-hmm. But we also have to place some blame on the state of Colorado because this is one of, we just talked about two of what are a couple funeral home scandals that have happened in Colorado.
Yeah, and it's because the laws around funeral directing is so like loose, right? And there's no regulation.
Exactly.
Fuck.
There's no routine inspections, and the qualifications for funeral home operations are low, if not like non-existent. So like you can open and operate a funeral home and do whatever the fuck you want, it seems, allegedly, in Colorado. And we have a small platform here. I want to say Colorado, do better.
I'd say so. I mean,
is it safe to die in Colorado?
That's the headline right there.
Yeah. Clickbait. And I've written in my notes, get it together, Colorado.
Please, you're killing us. Literally.
So out of the 189 sets of remains, 137 families have been reached out to, and 110 of the dead have been identified. There have also been 25 sets of remains that have been returned to their families.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's something.
Yeah. But we haven't even talked about what's going on with John and Carrie Halford, the owners of this funeral home. Where the fuck are they?
What's their deal?
Well, these two lovelies, once they got wind that the inspector was coming to check out their extremely not up to code funeral home, they pieced the fuck out to Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
They fled over state lines, which
Perfect.
I love. Please flee over state lines.
Yeah,
make it federal.
Let's make it federal, exactly.
I'm begging you to make it federal.
Let's get that FBI website involved.
Hell yeah, you know it, bitch. So they were eventually caught on November 8th, last week.
Hell yeah.
2023. And they were arrested on a warrant that cited 190 counts of abuse of corpse, 5 counts of theft, 4 of money laundering, and 50 counts of forgery.
Damn. Okay. Yeah.
And
Throw the book at them.
yeah, and those are the state charges.
Uh-oh.
Like I just said, they made it federal.
They did it to themselves.
Yeah, and so federal authorities can charge them for fleeing across state lines,
Hell yeah.
which is not going to be good for them.
I feel it won't be good at all.
Nope. And of course, as these two are awaiting trial at this very fucking moment, people are digging into their past.
Sure.
And these people have a history of wrongdoings. They have not been paying their taxes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I figured they're trying to pinch pennies wherever they can, so taxes seem like the least of their concerns.
Yeah, and you know what else doesn't concern them? Rent.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They've been evicted from one of their properties, as well as a lawsuit from one of the crematories that they worked with over many unpaid bills between the two of them.
Wow.
All of this is shaking out to paint a picture of two people who, like you said, were pinching pennies, but more than that, they were cutting corners. And more than that, they were negligent. They were, you know, one of the victims was talking about how with almost 200 victims, that's such strong intentionality. Like, they had to choose every time that they didn't cremate someone. They had to look people in the fucking face when they came to their funeral home hoping for an earth-friendly fucking burial. These were people who cared about the earth, and these were people who made the conscious choice to have a green burial, or families who paid out the fucking wazoo for a cremation.
That's
and
awful.
189 times they looked at these people and said, yes, we'll do that for you, and didn't.
That's hideous.
And like I say it as a blanket, you know, 189 people, you know, we have, you know, someone like the family of Roger Law, whose remains were found in the return to Nature Funeral Home. And his son paid $1,300 to cremate his father.
Jesus Christ.
And
that's a month of rent for a lot of people. That's a bunch of groceries. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. And his father had died of COVID in 2020.
Oh, God.
And don't forget, on top of the $1,300, there was an $85 upcharge because the remains were certified handled safely.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, they've just been rotting in the corner over here.
Yeah, they literally have. The deep betrayal that this is to people, the way that they deceived people. There was one woman, her name is Christina Page, and she had entrusted Return to Nature Funeral Home to cremate her son, who was killed by law enforcement in 2019. And she took his urn that she thought was filled with her son, who was killed by law enforcement, and she took it all around the state and all around the country, advocating for police reform, advocating against brutal use of force in law enforcement. And when she thought she was holding the remains of her son, she was holding what was probably concrete dust.
Yeah.
Dirt. Nothing.
It's just so sad. It's such yeah, we've already said it. It's just such a violation. Not only is it fraud, but it's like emotional abuse, honestly.
Exactly. And, you know, some of these families are suing for, you know, emotional damages. And I'd sue the fuck out of these people.
Oh, yeah. I doubt they're going to have a lot of money after all this is done. But, you know, it's more the principle of the thing for a lot of people.
Exactly. And the pain that they put these people through, because like we were talking about, you think that you've put this person to rest. There was a woman, Tanya Wilson, whose mother wanted her remains scattered in a beautiful place, and she entrusted Return to Nature Funeral Home to cremate her. They gave her the remains along with a certificate to say that they had done it and done it safely. Remember that $85 upcharge for doing it safely.
Yeah, straight into their pockets.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice dinner at Olive Garden.
Exactly. And she scattered what she thought were the remains of her mother in Hawaii. Little did she know, years later, she would have to identify her mother's corpse by a bracelet that she had given her. And her brother had to clean that bracelet of their mother's rotting flesh.
Ew, Jesus Christ.
That's super graphic to say, but that's what I want to get across, how graphic this crime is. Because something like funeral home scandal sounds very sanitized. But what they have done is, it's morally disgusting. It's physically disgusting.
Yeah.
It's emotional. It's a deep emotional wound. Like, how traumatic is that?
Yeah, I can't even imagine. You've already gone through the trauma of losing somebody, and then you compound it with this. It's unthinkable.
Yeah. And I think the only comfort any of these family members can have is that some of them now truly possess the remains of their loved ones. Their loved ones who have been held captive in this rotting oblivion for years.
And it wasn't even safe for people to go in there to, like, collect the bodies. I'm wondering, like, this is kind of graphic, the whole thing is, but, like, were these workers, like, coming and going from this space? Or did they just dump a bunch of people there and then just never come back? Like, I don't understand how they're not, like, disgusted by it or, you know, like, physically sick because of it. It's just wild.
It is really wild. It's wild what people can handle viewing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many employees worked at this funeral home. For now, the only people that I can confirm that worked there were John and his wife, Carrie. You know, people get desensitized to things. This is maybe the third or fourth funeral home scandal that I've covered on the podcast, many of which involve people occupying the same space as human remains for extended periods of time. And, you know, we've seen this in everything from different cultures to crimes. I don't know how they could hang out with all these dead bodies, because with each one of them is guilt.
You would think.
I would think. But to do this, what kind of person are you?
Right. Sick
In the head.
Okay, Jinx.
Well, on that obvious agreement between the two of us, thank you for letting me speak about this. I've been following it, like I said, for the last couple of weeks, and now that we have an arrest, we can start the process of bringing these people to justice.
Yeah, I hope they throw the book at them.
Oh, with 190 counts of abuse of corpse and 50 counts of fraud and everything else I said, there's multiple books and they're coming down hard, hopefully.
Yeah, a waterfall of books.
And I fucking dare them to plead not guilty. I dare you.
Oh, I wonder if they will. We'll just have to see. You'll have to update us.
I will. And it'd be a fucking field day if they represented themselves. Ooh. Anyway.
That's prime murderer, serial killer behavior.
Oh, yeah. Well, they didn't kill any of these people.
True.
Just let's be so clear about that. But what they did is extremely fucked up. And I would say takes the kind of mental state that someone like a serial killer has. I know that's really bold to say, but I think it's warranted.
Yeah. And hey, we love being bold on this podcast, so while you brainstorm ways to be bold in your day-to-day life, listen to this ad from a Podmonth podcast.
Welcome to the Getting Down and Wordy podcast ad.
What do we do on this podcast?
Well, it's the first Edda musical podcast.
Can you try that again in real words so that people can understand?
Fine. We talk about the intersection of popular music and language.
Oh, can we also talk about Eurovision?
Okay.
Find us on Apple and Spotify.
We are a Podmoth Network podcast.
Being bold is not just about having big bones.
It's about how
about-
you use them. You set me up.
Sponsored by milk.
Yeah. Drink your freaking milk, guys.
Or take a calcium pill. I don't fucking know.
I don't fucking know.
I'm not a doctor. Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Welcome to the podcast. We were just discussing being bold.
Yeah, being bold. Boy, do I have a bold gal to tell you about today.
Ooh, did she get bangs?
I don't know. Maybe at some point. I feel like most people at some point have bangs in their life.
I'm toying with the idea myself.
Ooh, do it. Why not?
Be
It's
bold.
just hair. Be bold. All right. So sources for this. I listened to an episode of Bailey Sarian's podcast, Murder, Mystery, and Makeup. It was the episode from March 7th, 2023, for anybody who's interested in this topic and wants to hear more. An article from crimemagazine.com, unsolved.com, and allthat'sinteresting.com.
Nice.
So we're going back to start with, we're going to go back to the late 30s in Independence, Missouri.
Ooh.
Misery.
Heh.
Just kidding.
I mean, this story is probably going to have some misery.
On November 30th, 1939, into the world pops Sharon Elizabeth Hall. She is born in, like I said, in Independence, Missouri. Not a lot is known about her young life, but by 16 years old, it's reported that she was fed up with her small town of Independence. She craved, the big city, more excitement,
Would you say she craved independence?
From Independence? Yeah, she might. So she's 16 and she meets a 22-year-old student from Brigham Young University. His name is James Kinne. That's Kinne. And the two have like a whirlwind, like summer romance. They like totally hit it off.
Oh.
Now, again, she is 16, he's 22. So the age difference is cringy.
Gross.
Yeah, we don't like that. I want to say like different times, but even still, it's a little creepy when someone's under 18.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's a student. So they have this summer romance and she gets pregnant. And because James, he goes to Brigham Young, so he is Mormon.
Uh-oh.
So they have to get married. They do get married. She converts to Mormonism and they have their first child, a daughter, in 1957. So I think she thought that like marrying James was going to get her out of the big city, was about to get her into the big city, like out of Independence. But when she gets pregnant, they like settle down in Independence. And I think one of the sources said he might have like dropped out of school or, something like that. So she didn't really go anywhere, but she is married now and has a kid.
Well, that plan backfired.
Kind of, yeah. So she, some time passes. She's about 20 years old. She's very young. And she works up a bit of a shopping habit.
Uh-oh. That's not good.
So her husband is an electrical engineer. He works nights. So she spends his money during the day and then is fooling around with a buddy of hers from high school, John Boldees.
Ooh, girl.
Yeah, so she's trying to live out this, like, glamorous fantasy. We're up to March 1960. They're broke because of her spending habits.
Yeah.
And he also is suspecting that his wife is being unfaithful, which she is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and, the different strokes for different folks, but his devout family urged him to, keep trying. Divorce is not allowed. So you gotta push through. So they're kind of separating, but religion and their values are keeping them together, and they have kids. So it's messy.
I really wish that they would just allow divorce for like people's safety. 'Cause even in the not religious cases, there's just always a point where we look at each other and go, just divorce them. Like, Just divorce your spouse. Don't kill them.
It was the 60s, and yeah.
Yeah, not as accepted in society either.
Right. But yeah, that's not excusing what's about to happen. Okay.
There were plenty of people who were married and didn't murder each other.
Yes. So it's March 19th, 1960, and Sharon calls the police after finding her husband, James, dead in their house. She says to the police that she was in the bathroom around 5:30, like doing her hair, doing something, and she hears a gunshot in their bedroom next door. And she says that James was napping, and their 2.5-year-old daughter picked up a .22 caliber pistol that was on the nightstand and shot him in the head. So she tells officers that her husband often left guns just like lying around, and that it was okay for the kid to pick up the gun and was acquainted with guns. And allegedly, the police, like, at some point in the investigation, they gave the little girl an unloaded .22 caliber just to see how she, like, handled it. And it was kind of inconclusive to them because, like, I don't know what you're exactly looking for there, but they thought that it was a plausible story, I guess, based on how she handled this gun.
Yeah, it's wild that you would let your kid play with guns. Like,
yeah,
like there's so much to dissect from what you just told me. Because, like, okay, first of all, don't let the child play with guns. Don't leave the guns out.
Please.
Also, like, I just, there is questions. There's questions here.
Yeah.
I have questions.
I would too if I were there, but police basically just believed her to the point where neither Sharon or the daughter were tested for gunshot residue. Bruh. They had those tests then, I'm 99% sure, because why would they be mentioning it in my sources if they didn't, you know?
No,
So
they've had that for a while, yeah.
They could have, but the story was plausible, so I guess they were just like, yeah, I mean, I guess a 2.5-year-old could, you know, just accidentally shoot her dad in the head.
Doesn't it take a bit of force to fire a gun, though?
It does, yeah, but they were just like, yeah, sure, this is plausible. Let's move on with our lives.
The hand of a toddler could fire a gun.
So she gets a little over $200,000 in her life insurance policy that was on her husband.
Girl.
And so Sharon is like, with all this, you know how she loves to spend money. That's her favorite thing. So she goes to the Ford dealership and gets a fucking Thunderbird from a married car salesman named Walter Jones about a month after her husband died. And they start an affair. Again, a month after her husband died.
The timing does not look great.
And this affair is going to go on for a little while, about a month. And then Sharon tells Walter that she is pregnant, and he is not super thrilled at the idea of having a mistress who is pregnant when he also has a wife.
Still married.
So her dream is that he will, you know, divorce his wife and marry her. And he's like, I don't want to do that, actually. I'm really sorry.
Oof.
And then, shortly after this unfortunate conversation that they have, Walter's wife, Patricia, goes missing on May 26, 1960.
Oh,
so
no.
Walter files a police report, which through the investigation into this report, they learn that Patricia was dropped off the previous afternoon to meet an unknown woman. The woman was in a car wearing a headscarf and large sunglasses. What is this? Like, what are we doing here?
You know, the woman with the headscarf and the large sunglasses.
So they confront Sharon, who eventually, like, along through the investigation, and she's like, yeah, I saw Patricia that day. I told her that Walter was having an affair with my sister.
Oh.
Bitch doesn't have a sister.
Oh.
So she was just trying to get in there.
Yeah.
Probably to kill her.
Yes.
This high school lover, John Boldees, who she was having an affair with the last guy, he comes back into the game here.
Oh, God.
John, somehow or other, stumbles upon Patricia Jones's body off of a known lover's lane. He's he goes to the police and he's like, I found this missing woman. And they're like, you what? Like, and he's like, oh, I was driving and I had to pee. And so I went off the road and I found her. And then they're like, you had to pee at a lover's lane by yourself? And then eventually he caves and he's like, well, no, my girlfriend Sharon was with me and we were looking for this body.
Guy.
Talk about inserting yourself into the investigation.
Yeah.
So Patricia, unfortunately, had been killed by 4 gunshot wounds to the head, stomach, and shoulders by, again, a .22 caliber pistol. So there were basically 3 suspects: Sharon, the husband, Walter, and John, this dude that Sharon was also like...
This random other dude.
This other guy, yeah. Not sure what the relationship was exactly, but, this guy.
Yeah.
So Walter and John give written statements that they had both, dated Sharon. They were able to kind of speak to her character. They also passed polygraph tests, and Sharon refused to take one. So we know polygraph tests are bullshit.
Yeah.
If somebody asked me to take a polygraph test, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
But it is suspicious.
Yeah.
If everybody's saying, yeah, I'll take a polygraph test, and then
you're the
like,
only one that's
no,
like,
I'm not
I
gonna
won't
do that.
it. Yeah.
It's suspicious. But,
it doesn't
yeah,
look great for you.
It doesn't look great. You're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't with polygraphs. So I don't think they're used very much anymore.
Yeah, they're unreliable and, like anything operated by a person, fallible.
So Patricia goes missing on or about May 26th. And by May 31st, Sharon is arrested for her murder. So it didn't take them long to kind of figure this out. And at that time, the police are like, you know what? You're already here. We're going to charge you with the murder of your first husband.
I mean, well, you got her in the building.
Yeah. But remember, she was actually pregnant. So they postponed both of her trials until after she had given birth to another daughter in January 1961.
Great. Now she's all out of babies and she can be tried.
So the Patricia Jones murder case started off rocky. They didn't actually have a murder weapon, although there was a witness who was a coworker of Sharon's that admitted to purchasing a .22 caliber gun for her. But police searched her house and they found an empty box. And according to one source, she said she, misplaced it when she was on vacation. Which, excuse me, what?
She misplaced the gun when she was on vacation?
That's what she told people. That's what she said in court.
I wonder where she was vacationing that she needed a gun.
Apparently, it says Seattle.
Really?
That's what it said, yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, girl, never mind. I lose things in this city all the time.
But amazingly, citing too many loopholes, the jury, which was all male, by the way, acquitted Sharon for the murder of Patricia Jones.
Really?
Yep. They did, however, find her guilty for the murder of her husband and sentenced her to life. And that was in 1962.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we got her for something.
Yeah. So again, this guy, John Boldies, he comes back for a final time in our story. Because in that trial, he testified that Sharon had once offered him $1,000 to kill her husband.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Bold.
Yeah. And so you think that's the end of it. You hope that's the end of it. You think Sharon's going away for life. She's been sentenced. You'd be wrong. Because somehow in 1963, the Supreme Court reverses her conviction and orders a new trial for Sharon.
No.
The trial ends in a mistrial, and then they do another one, and the trial ends in a hung jury. So now they're getting ready for trial number 4, and she is out on $25,000 bond.
What is it going to take?
I'll tell you. She's out on bond, and she's like, you know what? I'm over this shit. She goes to Mexico City in September 1964 under the name Jeanette Pugliese. Okay.
My name is Jeanette Pugliese, and I haven't killed anyone. My name is Jeanette Pugliese, and I'm not guilty of anything.
So in mid-September 1964, she goes to the bar of this hotel called Del Prado, and that's in Mexico City, apparently, with a Mexican-American citizen, Francisco Paradis Ordonez. One way or the other, they end up in his hotel room.
Oh.
And wouldn't you know it, he gets shot in the chest twice.
Girl!
And she also shoots a hotel employee who comes to see what all the fuss is about.
Girl.
Luckily, the hotel worker survived.
Thank goodness for that.
I don't think that the man she was with did survive.
Oh, God. Well, he was shot in the chest twice.
So the Mexican police are not buying Sharon's story that she was, defending herself against Francisco. They're pretty sure that it's a robbery gone wrong. Allegedly, during some questioning, she told a U.S. embassy official that she had, quote, shot men before and gotten away with it. It's alleged, but if she said that, holy shit.
That's a lot of admission by saying that.
So they find in her hotel room a .22 caliber pistol, and they fucking match it to the murder scene of Patricia Jones.
Yes.
But she's already been acquitted of this crime, so double jeopardy is in play.
Fuck.
It doesn't matter. She's already been acquitted.
Yeah, God, that sucks because double jeopardy is really important because you don't want to keep trying someone who's innocent, right? Mm-hmm. But no evidence.
Yeah, you would think, but I don't know. I thought that's how that worked, but one way or the other, she is in jail in Mexico City.
Yeah, she did that crime.
Yeah, they got her right on that. She was convicted of that murder October 18th, 1965. And they nicknamed her in Mexico City La Pistolera. I guess, which means the gunfighter.
Oh.
So she's sentenced to 13 years in a women's prison.
Have fun in a Mexican prison in the 60s.
And again, you think that's the end of Sharon's story. You think, okay, she's done. We're done here.
Sharon.
Not wily old Sharon.
Sharon, you son of a bitch.
4 years later, December 7th, 1969,
Nice.
Sharon misses a routine evening roll call. She
Sharon?
misses a second roll call that night, and then her absence is officially noted. But because there was some weird blackout at the prison, and for whatever reason, officials did not notify anybody for several hours after she was reported, as missing.
A weird blackout in the prison, eh?
Mm-hmm. So they searched high and low for Sharon. Nobody has ever fucking seen her again since 1969, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
Gone.
She was never heard from again.
In the wind.
Completely in the wind. Yeah.
That sucks.
I know.
I want
That's
her brought to
the fucking end of
justice.
Sharon's story. There's
That's-
just nothing. Yeah.
That's wild.
Isn't that insane?
Wild.
Isn't that crazy?
Sharon, where did you go?
So I just did the math. If she was born in 1939, so if she was alive today, she'd be 84. Approximately.
That's
She'd
probable.
be 84 this month.
She could be alive.
She literally could be alive.
Wow. And she's a murderer who's just out.
She's super murdered several people.
Damn it. I really wanted her to rot in a 1960s Mexican prison.
She did not.
Damn it.
She left. She walked right out the door somehow and was never heard from again.
She probably seduced her way out.
She had to have had help. That blackout, that's all too, that's
Too convenient.
That's very suspicious, yeah.
Extremely suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, Katelyn. That's a whopper.
It's just it just goes so many places. She had just the weirdest set of crimes and just so cold-hearted and manipulative and devious.
I mean, but that's the perfect kind of person to run. Someone who doesn't care about killing people or disposing of people in their life in any way or any of their things. They're just yeah, I'm in it for me.
She had 2 kids. Probably never saw them again,
Yeah, well, in her mind, fuck them.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, honestly.
She pinned a
to be
murder
fair,
on one of them.
Right, and they're probably better off. Sorry to say it, but yeah.
Oh, they're definitely better off. She tried to pin a murder on her toddler daughter.
Mm-hmm.
That's so fucked up.
And the police believed her at first.
I mean, yeah, it's wild that they just were like, we're not going to do the gun residue stuff. And like, it sounds like a far-fetched story, but we know that kids have shot people before.
It unfortunately happens.
Yeah, and people shoot people on accident all the time.
Yeah, and I think I'm sure they were both, the mother and daughter were both very sympathetic. I bet Sharon was a really good actress to have fooled so many people throughout the years. So like they probably felt sorry for her.
Yeah, but can you even imagine being that daughter? If I was that daughter, I'd start to question what happened.
Well, she was 2.5 when it happened, but yeah, I agree.
Still
like later on.
Yeah.
Later on, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and she's growing up and her mom's in jail, in and out of jail for other stuff too. So it's just, yeah.
And then
it's
just
crazy.
disappears.
Mm-hmm.
And her father is dead.
Mm-hmm. Hideous. Yeah. That's this. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to Anything Bones.
I mean, but that's the reality behind these cases. I think it's easy to sensationalize, like, and then she was like, never seen again, which is like sensational in a bad way. But she leaves behind more than just her murder victims. She leaves behind, the victims of her children and of all the people she manipulated.
Just a path of destruction.
Yeah.
Walter Jones, the guy she had an affair, the car salesman she had an affair with, his wife died.
Yeah.
Patricia lost her life. I mean, like, just for what? Because she wanted something and decided that she deserved it more than other people deserve to live.
Yeah, that's the scary crux of all of these people, is that they think that what they want is more important than other people's right to be alive.
It's never the case. Well, everybody, this was a bit of a downer.
Well, just talking about selfish people and their selfish crimes.
I hope we learned something about the world today. But I hope we can also still trust people in the end.
Yeah, I think trust is a very important thing to have with people. But, you got to make sure you're trusting the right people.
Take care of yourself. Stay safe out there.
Yeah, exactly. And do your research. And if you can be buried in another state other than Colorado,
do it. Just do it.
Allegedly. There's nothing wrong with Colorado. I'm sure that there is something wrong with Colorado. I pointed that out. But there are good funeral homes in Colorado. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, you would think. They just need some regulation down there because this is getting out of hand.
Yeah, there are good people out there, but you just can't rely on everybody to be as tight on the rules. And in some cases, it's not even an attempt to follow the rules.
Right. It's just flagrant negligence.
Yeah, just let me take your money and your human remains, and I'll spend one and rot the other.
Yeah. Well, everyone. We're approaching Thanksgiving. So remember that you can trust people. But like we say, do your research, be vigilant. And, if you have some time, shoot us a 5-star review on your favorite podcasting app. We really appreciate it. That would be a lovely way to show thanks.
Yeah, if you have never heard of these stories before or you found them interesting, let us know on Instagram or through a review. Hey friends, future Sophie popping in here to let you know about something super exciting. I am featured on a tabletop RPG, that's tabletop role-playing game podcast called System Switch that is premiering now. The first episode is out wherever you find podcasts. It's a fun sci-fi adventure where myself and 2 other intrepid heroes try to save space from the fascist hegemony. So if that sounds interesting to you, please check it out.
We love you, and we hope that you have a wonderful day today.
Be safe and be cozy, and as always,
Bon voyage. I got nothing.
Yeah, me neither.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones, Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter,
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
at Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe.
I need to stand up. My butt.
Is your butt asleep?
Yeah.
You had a sleepy patooter?
Yeah.
You got Kilo patooter?
Yeah.